Don't look now, but your Seattle Kraken are back in a playoff spot. By points, not so much by points percentage. There's still a bunch of teams that are close to them in points and have played fewer games, so they've got games in hand. But for now, they are in a playoff spot, and considering where they were a month ago, that's quite the feat. What's cracking, everybody, and welcome back to Kraken R&R, where the Seattle Kraken, off that incredible Winter Classic, just keep things rolling with another win here against the Senators. 4-1 in this one, as they now have 6 wins in a row and 10 straight games with points, which extends the franchise record that they set with their 9th straight game with points in that Winter Classic. But now that the streak is at 10 games, they do have that great-looking last 10-game stretch of 8-0-2, with that beautiful little oval sitting right there in that regulation loss column. That's not the only good Kraken news, though, that we've had here in the last couple of days since the Winter Classic, as the NHL also named their first group of NHL All-Stars, one from each team, and the Kraken representative is Oliver Bjorkstrand. For Bjorkstrand, it's a well-earned nomination. He's been great for the Kraken, at least offensively. I mean, really at both ends of the ice, but certainly offensively, where he leads the team, or leads the forward group in points at this point in the season. Definitely a hotter start offensively than he had last year, and although I'll admit I'm a little surprised that Vince Dunn wasn't the Kraken nominee, it's still a well-earned representation for Bjorkstrand, his first All-Star Game appearance. And yes, I know there's also going to be people that are going to want Decord to represent the Kraken, considering how important he's been to the team in this last stretch over the last month or so, and certainly the 10-game point streak, but it is based on the entire season so far, and while Decord has had a good season, currently the two leading Vezina candidates are both also in the West in Demko in Vancouver and Hellebuck in Winnipeg, so yeah, just kind of a tough spot for Decord to find his way into that group. That having been said, though, there still is the fan voting portion to the All-Star Game that will select 12 more players, so if you want to see Decord, get to voting. Or Dunn, or McCann, or any other Kraken player for that matter. Meanwhile, on the injury front, also good news for the Kraken there, as both Grubauer and especially Schwartz have started practicing for the team, Schwartz in a non-contact jersey, and currently Hackstall is calling him a little bit more day-to-day, even though he's still technically listed on the injured reserve. But it could mean that, especially with 4 days off before this extended 6-game road trip, Schwartz could be back in time for that first game of the road trip in Buffalo. Of course, though, once Schwartz comes back, assuming no one else gets injured in that time, there's then the tough decision to make of who comes out of the lineup so he can go back in. The obvious answers, at least to me anyway, would be either Yamamoto or Cartier, but yeah, pretty much everyone's been playing really well here over this last stretch, so it's going to be a tough decision for Hackstall to make. I suppose the other two guys that might make some sense would be either Tanev on that second line that Schwartz came off of when he got injured, or Tatar being the newest addition. But with those two, well, Tanev we know is the spark plug of the team alongside Gord, and Hackstall loves the way he plays the game, so I don't really see them taking him out of the lineup. I could see them moving him back down to the fourth line and putting Schwartz in that spot he's been filling on the second line, but not out of the lineup entirely. Then with Tatar, it does make sense from the standpoint that Tatar is the guy they brought in because of the injury issues they had. At the same time, though, they tried all sorts of different things to get that first line really rolling this season, and nothing seemed to work until they put Tatar on that line, and all of a sudden, that line has never been better than with Tatar on it. So I just don't really see them taking Tatar off of it and messing with the chemistry that he, Eberle, and Beniers have been able to find here since they put him in the lineup. So then if I'm right about those two, it's then back to Yamamoto or Cartier, neither one of which I'd personally like to see out of the lineup, but there's only so many forward spots, and if healthy, Schwartz is going to be one of them. Now, if everyone stays healthy, which is not a given, I could see them go that kind of platoon type of route and alternate who sits each game. We already saw them do that towards the end of last year with especially Donato and Sprong, so that could be a route they decide to go, but obviously we'll just have to wait and see. There is, though, one piece of Kraken news that we've had here in the last few days that's not so much fun, and we did know about it before the Winter Classic, so I could have shared it in the R&R following that game, but I decided with how the Winter Classic went that we would just stick to good vibes only in that video. But it's certainly worth mentioning that we found out before the Winter Classic, the Kraken did send Riker Evans back down to Coachella Valley and the AHL, and as for why they sent him back down then, before the Winter Classic, and didn't just allow him to be a part of the team for that experience, even if he wasn't going to play, is likely because the Firebirds in that time played 2 games against one of their biggest rivals in their division, which Yeah, two very important games, and obviously Evans is a big part of that team and could definitely help with the success that they were actually able to have in those games. So I guess I understand the move from the team, though personally I'd still like to see Evans up and playing games with the Kraken, since I do think in the time that he was up here, he proved he's one of the 6 best defensemen the Kraken have in the organization. At the same time, though, this is a team that's trying to balance their present, which is good, with a future that looks like it's going to be better, with the window really opening up to be competing for potential Stanley Cup runs in potentially 3 or 4 years' time, and Evans is a big part of that. And from strictly a future standpoint, if the defensive core can stay healthy the rest of the season, and Evans can stay at the AHL level, which is a big if someone goes down on the defensive end at the Seattle level, Evans is right back up and playing games. But considering he only played, well, less than 10 games for the Kraken, if he does stay at the AHL level for the rest of the year, then they can bump 1 year farther down the road when it comes to his ELC and not have to re-sign him as soon as they would otherwise. So at least in that way, the same type of thing that we saw with Wright last season, though Wright didn't look necessarily ready for the NHL level at that point, the Kraken still were trying to keep him under those 10 games so they could bump that ELC 1 more year down the road. And besides, even for what it strictly means for the Kraken this season, neither Schultz or Dumoulin are that much of a downgrade from a rookie Evans. They're still both very good, capable veteran defensemen. And yeah, if they were all in on this season, I do think Evans would be a better option than one of the two of them, but it's not a big enough difference that I really think it's worth a Kraken jeopardizing or sacrificing some of the future potential. And also, no, I don't think the Kraken are stunting Evans' growth in any way by sending him back to the AHL. Obviously, he's had a lot of success there, and there's still plenty he can learn from what still is a very good pro league. Anyway, with all that being said, and I'd love to know your thoughts in the comment section about the Riker Evans situation, or Bjorkstrand making the All-Star game, or the winning streak, anything we've talked about so far. But we still do have a game to get to here, which is the latest installment in that winning streak. And for the Kraken, the game gets off to a pretty good start in the first couple of minutes, as they end up on a power play within the first 17 seconds of the game. And it's a power play that goes pretty well for the Kraken too. They get a couple of very good scoring chances, a few shots off on net, one through a screen that Korpisalo is able to glove, then another off a rebound for Wennberg that Korpisalo also is able to get in front of. So yeah, he was looking pretty good here on this power play, and really the only reason the Kraken don't score is what he was able to do in net. Honestly, I think he had a pretty good night for the Senators as a whole. Just the Kraken were able to create a lot of net front presence and chances in and around that eventually get them on the board. But it doesn't happen on this power play, and it doesn't happen in the few minutes following, as the Senators very quickly end up on a power play of their own, which in the last few seconds turns into another power play and 17 seconds of overlapping 5-on-3. All of which the Kraken are able to kill off successfully, thanks in large part to Decord, who makes I think 7 saves in these 2 power plays. One right after the 5-on-3 comes to an end and Larson gets back into the play. The Decord goes from one side to the other and is able to keep his pads on the ice and the 5-hole closed as the Senators almost get one in, but Decord once again on the spot, picking up right where he left off in the Winter Classic. But then right out of those back-to-back kills for the Kraken, they're able to use them to build momentum back the other way, and eventually it's who else but that Yanni Gourde line, the same line that was on the ice for all 3 goals in the Winter Classic, that once again makes things happen with their tenacious forechecking. Eventually, it's Tolvanen who fires off the shot on net, which Korpisalo is able to save, but the rebound goes off of his pad, bounces up in the air, and then lands right back down on the crease. Gourde, fighting his way back up to the front of the net, picks up that rebound and shovels it into the net to give the Kraken the 1-0 lead. For Gourde, it's his 6th of the season and 2nd in as many games, and for Tolvanen, he picks up his 3rd point in 2 games with his 14th assist. Honestly, from there though, the rest of this first period really doesn't go much of anywhere for either team. Neither one's able to get much of anything going offensively, at least until about 43 seconds remaining when the Kraken end up on their 2nd power play, which they almost score on here in the last few seconds, but we get to that first intermission with the Kraken still leading 1-0. Which actually, at that point, was the 6th straight period, including both overtime and the 3rd period of the game against the Flyers, that the Kraken had led 1-0 in the course of that period. 1-0 in the 3rd against the Flyers, 1-0 in overtime, 1-0 in all 3 periods of the Winter Classic, and now 1-0 here in the first of this game. And they're almost able to make it 1-0 in the 2nd period right out of the gate, as even with the power play split by the intermission, they're right back in the offensive end, set up, and get one more at least very good scoring chance that Korpisalo is able to keep out, and the Senators kill off that power play, or the remainder of it anyway. Even though they don't score on the power play though, the Kraken are able to keep momentum through the next few minutes of this first period, but still are unable to find that second goal of the game, and eventually, through the middle of the period, the Senators really start to take control of this game, getting a lot of consistent offensive zone pressure, including another power play, which Decord is just racking up save after save after save. And eventually, thanks to all those Decord saves, as well as defensively on the kill, the Kraken doing a pretty good job of keeping those shots to the outside, so even if they are letting up shots, they're making them relatively easy for Decord to make the saves on. The Kraken survive this power play for the Senators, and then back at 5-on-5, it's not long before they catch the Senators flat-footed back the other way. It's quickly through the neutral zone as Dunn gets it across to Eberle at the corner on the far blue line. Eberle one-touches it, releasing Tatar on the breakaway. Tatar skates in, backhand, forehand, around Korpisalo, and scores to give the Kraken the 2-0 lead. A beautiful move as he shows off some silky hands out in front of the net for his third for the Kraken. Fourth of the season, and it's 2-0. So there you go. Once again, that first line showing that with Tatar, they've been much more dangerous. And certainly Tatar enjoying the move here to Seattle from Colorado, where he was not seeing a lot of ice time and certainly not very many offensive opportunities. But already with 3 goals since coming over here. And with the late goal from Tatar here in the final few minutes of the second period, it did look for a while like we were going to get the 7th straight period of 1-0 Kraken hockey. But eventually that is ruined in, I think, the final minute, just inside the final minute of the second period, when it's once again the Kraken on the rush back the other way. Burakovsky creating a turnover at the Kraken blue line, gets it to Yamamoto, who skates it through the neutral zone, quickly into the offensive end, crossing in front of Burakovsky, who's following him for a bit of a broken 2-on-1. But Yamamoto drops it to Burakovsky, following him in. Burakovsky crosses in front of Korpisalo, and then buries it over the pad into that same corner of the net, but in the air this time. The Tatar put it in, and the Kraken have the 3-0 lead going into the intermission. And Burakovsky did lose an edge as he goes to celebrate the goal, then crashing back first into the boards, which I think a lot of the Kraken fan base took a quick breath in, but Burakovsky was fine. He's all smiles going to the bench, and the Kraken take that 3-0 lead into the third. And honestly, with the Kraken going into this third period with a 3-0 lead, playing the way that they have been lately, there was no way that they were blowing a 3-goal lead in this third. Not even to a Senators team that, when they're on their game, can definitely make you pay for mistakes offensively. But yeah, the Kraken were not going to give up 3. So then, really all that was left for them to do would be make sure that Decord gets his second back-to-back shutout, which they really put to the test from the start of this third period, or maybe about a minute in, through the middle of it, as the Senators get tons of offensive zone pressure, creating lots of chances in the offensive end, including another power play that they get here in the third. None of which really leads to much of anything, until finally it's one shift for the Kraken that they just cannot get off the ice. 3 or 4 icings in one shift. They're just stuck in their end, and although they do eventually get the puck across the blue line, it doesn't get very far across the blue line, so when the Senators quickly get back in, the Kraken are still mid-change, and although I think they do complete the change, eventually the shot gets off on net just as the Kraken are getting set up defensively, and it's a nice tip out in front by a guy left in front of Decord. The tip by Kelly not only keeps the puck from going straight into Decord's glove, but also puts it straight into the ice and through the 5-hole of Decord, which it still kind of sneaks through. I think he got at least a piece of it, but nonetheless, it is able to trickle through Decord back behind him into the crease, where Dunn very nearly scoops this off the goal line and keeps it out. But Kelly's able to get his stick to it as well and force it just into the corner of the net before Dunn can keep it out. And that breaks up the shutout streak for Decord that went way back to the first period of the game against the Flyers. 158 consecutive minutes of shutout hockey. So as far as the game's concerned, the Kraken still do have a 3-1 lead, which with less than half of the third period remaining is still perfectly manageable, and they are obviously able to hold on to that lead. But it was a big bummer to see that streak come to an end for Decord. Though, with that being said, I will say that there were a couple of instances earlier on in this game, I think actually both in the second period, where Decord was pretty lucky that the streak didn't come to an end earlier. One in particular that ended up, I think, going to review about a minute. Actually, I know it went to review about a minute and a half later after the fact, that the shot gets almost through Decord and would have if it wasn't for the bottom of his jersey. It ends up going into the bottom of his jersey and then rims around the back of it, his jersey actually making the save behind him. As it stays out, goes out into the crease, and then Dunn is able to clear it. And then later on in the period, I'm pretty sure it's Dunn again that pulled another one that squeaked through Decord off the goal line. So yeah, there were a couple that did get through him in this game, not the cleanest of saves, but once again, the Kraken doing a good job defensively of keeping presence around the net and making sure that when things like that do happen, they can get to the puck first. Of course, though, to get back to the third period, the potential silver lining to this goal going in, breaking up the shutout, but making it a 2-goal game, is that the Senators, now at 3.5 minutes, are willing to pull Korpisalo to go empty net, which gave Decord at least one chance to find that goalie goal, getting it into the empty net. He didn't have a clean look, but he does try to rebound it off the boards in the neutral zone, just missing the net by a few feet. Unfortunately, that would be the only chance he would get. Eventually, though, it is Dunn who finds the empty net, and usually I don't show empty net goals, but Dunn finds it from way downtown, which I didn't realize is also the way that Forsland made the call as the goal happened, but Dunn from right on, if not behind the goal line in the corner in the Kraken end, goes almost 200 feet to the other end, into the goal to give the Kraken the empty netter, the 4-1 lead, which they would carry through the end of the game, as they pick up that 6th straight win and 10th straight game with points. So once again, in the end with this game for the Kraken, yeah, it's a bummer that Decord couldn't get the 2nd straight shutout and continue this shutout streak going into the next game, but the Kraken still do play another fantastic defensive gem of a game. They're now 6th straight game, all 6 of the games in this winning streak, where they've allowed 2 or fewer goals, 5 of which they've allowed 1 or less, including the last 4. So this is a team that is just not allowing very many good offensive opportunities for the other team. And although the shot totals have been higher, Decord making 32 saves on 33 shots, a lot of that has been to the outside. And defensively, as I already mentioned in this video during the kill, or one of the kills at least, but it was true throughout the entirety of the game, even at 5-on-5, and has been throughout this entire 10-game point streak, the Kraken continue to do an incredible job in that defensive structure, keeping everything to the outside and not allowing any sort of secondary chances, presence from the, at least not contested presence, for opposing teams in and around the Kraken net. So on the rare occasion where Decord does allow rebounds out in front of the net, they are the first ones to the puck and able to clear it out into the not dangerous areas. And even at that, Decord is not allowing very many rebounds, often just freezing the puck or playing the puck. We actually saw a couple times on the kill, I forgot to mention, in the back-to-back kills to start the game, that Decord cleared the puck a couple times himself, but when he's not freezing the puck or playing it, he is controlling rebounds into the corners where those secondary chances just can't come from. So between Decord's great rebound control and the team playing very well around the net, it just does not allow very many dangerous chances for the opposing team unless they can create something on the rush. Oh, and the other thing that having that presence defensively around your own net does is it makes it a lot easier for the team to do a good job of blocking shots on their way to the net on top of all of it, which the Kraken continued in this game as well. Every defenseman on the team having at least 1 block shot. Alexiak had 6, Wenberg on the forward end had 4, but as a defensive core, they had 16. On the forward end, I think it was 5, with McCann having 1 himself. So even outside of what Decord's been doing, the rest of the team also doing a very good job of getting in the way of those shots as well. So then with so many players playing well and contributing in different ways, it does make my job pretty difficult as we get to the Kraken 3 stars, where, as always, it is brought to you by the patrons over on Patreon. If you want to help me decide these Kraken 3 stars after each and every one of the Kraken games, and in a game like this one, I could definitely use that help. You can help support the channel a little bit more than you already are by watching to this point by going to the link down below to Patreon and supporting over there as well. Now, the first star, once again, it's starting to get hogged by him, but it's once again a game where I really don't have much of a choice with those 32 saves on 33 shots. It's Joey Decord setting that franchise record for longest streak in minutes without giving up a goal and getting so close to those back-to-back shutouts. Then, with the second star, I'm gonna go with Vince Dunn. Now, Dunn does have 2 points in this game, but also on the defensive end had a couple of blocks and did pull a couple of pucks off of the goal line, or out of the crease near the goal line and nearly did it with the one that did ultimately end up in the net. Then with the third star, I'm going to go with Andrei Burakovsky, getting his first goal of the season for the Kraken, having dealt with all of those injury issues, just a couple of games at the start of the season, then a part of a game before coming back, and now his third game, I think, since coming back from those back-to-back injuries. He finally gets that first goal and survived sliding into the boards without getting injured again, so that's nice to see as well. Hopefully it's the start of more of that to come for him. And obviously it's been a tough road for him to get back with the injury last season that led into, the frustration added on with the 2 injuries to start this one. Anyway, good to see Burakovsky back and contributing with the team. So Burakovsky gets the third star, done the second with the 2 points, and obviously decored the first star. As for honorable mentions, there's Tatar that could have gotten it for that fantastic move, Gord with the goal, Yamamoto with the incredible pass, Alexiak with 6 blocks, although he had a bit of a tough first period, but he still has the 6 blocks. Wemberg, 4 blocks on the forward end. Yeah, just a full team effort, and that really has been the way they've been winning these games here over this last stretch. Other than that, though, I'd love to know your thoughts on this game as a whole down in the comment section. And until next time, when we start that 6-game road trip with 4 days in between, the Kraken finally starting to see a little bit lighter chunk of the schedule here, though it picks up right again as they go on the road trip. And I will try to stream one of those games. I haven't nailed down which one, but I'll try and stream at least one of the games of that road trip. Until then, if you have made it to this point, thank you very much for watching. If you did like or enjoy this video, there are a bunch of that kind of stuff down below that helps support the channel, so I'd appreciate using them. Like and subscribe, of course. And until that road trip, stay safe out there, be good to each other, God bless, and go Kraken!